Flames rise over a burning village. The screams of warriors and settlers echo in the night. Ships packed with enslaved Africans sail toward a land they will never leave. In just a few generations, entire civilizations will vanish. But was it disease, war, or something even darker? The colonization of America is often told as a story of exploration and discovery. But for millions, it was a story of invasion, destruction, and survival against impossible odds. Entire nations disappeared. Millions were enslaved, and the world changed forever. But here's the truth. America wasn't an undiscovered wilderness. It was a thriving world before Europeans arrived, home to over 60 million people living in complex societies with agriculture, governance, religion, and vast trade networks stretching from the Arctic Circle to the Andes. Cities like Cahokia, Tenochtitlan, and Cusco buzzed with markets, ceremonies, and innovation. What followed wasn't a meeting of worlds, it was a cataclysm. It all started with one voyage. In 1492, Christopher Columbus set sail under the Spanish flag, searching for a direct route to Asia. But here's what history often leaves out. Columbus wasn't the first European to reach the Americas. Nearly 500 years earlier, Norse explorer Leif Erikson led a Viking expedition to Vinland, what is now Canada. Archaeological discoveries at L'Anse aux Meadows confirm that the Norse had a presence in North America, though their efforts at colonization were short-lived. Columbus's voyage, however, triggered something new, an unrelenting scramble for land, wealth, and souls. The Columbian Exchange, the largest transfer of plants, animals, people, and diseases in human history, had begun. Europe gained potatoes, tomatoes, corn, and chocolate, foods that would revolutionize diets and boost populations. The Americas received horses, pigs, and wheat, but more devastatingly, smallpox, measles, and influenza. Native Americans had no natural immunity to these foreign diseases. In less than a century, entire populations were wiped out. In some regions, 90% of the indigenous peoples died, many without ever laying eyes on a European. This invisible enemy cleared the path for colonization faster than any musket or sword could have. Meanwhile, European powers, Spain, Portugal, England, France, and the Netherlands rushed to claim parts of the New World. They weren't just seeking adventure. They were chasing gold, glory, and the chance to expand their empires, and they were willing to use any means necessary. By the early 1500s, Spain had shifted from exploration to conquest. What they found in the New World weren't wild frontiers, but rich, advanced civilizations. The Aztec Empire, centered in Tenochtitlan, boasted pyramids, aqueducts, and a bustling population of over 200,000 people, more than most European capitals. The Incas ruled from the heights of Cusco, linking their mountainous empire with thousands of miles of roads and a relay system of messengers called chasquis. But empires have cracks. The Aztecs ruled through domination and demanded tribute from neighboring tribes. When Hernán Cortés arrived in 1519, he forged alliances with discontented allies like the Tlaxcalans, who helped him march on the Aztec capital. Montezuma, the Aztec emperor, was captured and killed. Within 2 years, the empire fell. In South America, Francisco Pizarro encountered an Inca empire weakened by civil war between Atahualpa and Huáscar, two brothers fighting for the throne. Pizarro kidnapped Atahualpa, demanded a ransom of gold, and then executed him anyway. Without leadership and already suffering from disease, the Inca resistance collapsed. Spanish victory was not inevitable. It was built on luck, timing, manipulation, and overwhelming brutality. Encomienda labor systems turned native populations into slaves. Missions and forced conversions undermined indigenous religions. Entire cultures were erased or transformed beyond recognition. As native labor declined due to disease and rebellion, Spain and other colonial powers turned to Africa. The transatlantic slave trade became the darkest artery of global capitalism. European ships docked in West African ports, where kingdoms, under immense pressure, traded captives for guns, textiles, and alcohol. Raids and wars increased, capturing millions. These captives were crammed into ships for the Middle Passage, a journey that lasted weeks or months in unbearable conditions. Disease, starvation, and despair killed many before they reached land. Those who survived were sold into a life of violence and exploitation. In Brazil, sugar plantations demanded relentless labor. In the Caribbean, the average enslaved person lived only 7 years. In the American South, tobacco and cotton became king, and human bodies became currency. The slave trade didn't just destroy lives, it reshaped continents. African societies were destabilized. The Americas became racially stratified. Europe grew rich. And a system of racial hierarchy designed to justify the unthinkable was born. In 1607, the English founded Jamestown. It was a disaster. Within the first year, more than half the settlers were dead. Disease, poor planning, and conflicts with the Powhatan Confederacy nearly doomed the project. Then came tobacco. John Rolfe's experiments with Caribbean strains produced a smoother leaf perfect for European markets. Suddenly, Jamestown had value. Colonists expanded into native lands, clearing fields for the addictive cash crop. This agricultural boom required labor. At first, indentured servants, Europeans seeking a new start, filled the gap. But they were temporary. Africans, at first, were treated similarly, with some gaining freedom. But by the 1660s, colonial laws cemented racial slavery. Blackness became synonymous with bondage. Plantations spread from Virginia to the Carolinas. Families were torn apart. Generations were born into servitude. And American wealth, its infrastructure, its commerce, even its universities, was built atop this forced labor. Colonization didn't go unchallenged. Native resistance was fierce and continuous. In New England, King Philip's War saw Metacom, leader of the Wampanoag, unite tribes against the English. The war devastated both sides, but ended with thousands of native captives sold into slavery. In the Southwest, the Pueblo Revolt of 1680 was the most successful uprising against colonial power. Led by Popé, Pueblo warriors expelled the Spanish from New Mexico for over a decade. Enslaved Africans resisted too. The 1739 Stono Rebellion in South Carolina saw a group of rebels kill their enslavers and attempt to flee to Spanish Florida. Though the rebellion was crushed, it terrified colonial elites, leading to harsh new laws that further restricted African freedoms. History often forgets these stories, but they matter. They show that colonization was never accepted. It was fought every step of the way. The colonization of America reshaped the globe. For Europe, it meant immense wealth, scientific breakthroughs, and global domination. But for the people who lived in the Americas and those brought there in chains, it meant centuries of loss. Entire civilizations vanished, languages were silenced, sacred sites were looted, families were scattered across oceans, and ideologies of racial superiority still haunt the world we live in. But nothing about this history was inevitable. What if Tenochtitlan had held? What if the Stono rebels had succeeded? What if more Europeans had rejected the cruelty of empire? History is not just about what happened, but what could have happened. And in that space between memory and possibility, we find lessons, warnings, and a call to justice. What do you think? Let us know in the comments, and if you want more history that challenges what you thought you knew, subscribe.